Okay, so today we're going to be looking at how to join a new ball of yarn using the Russian join technique. And I really like doing the Russian join if I'm working with a type of yarn that has, maybe a few fibers to it that you can sort of unravel and thread a needle through. And it really makes joining the yarn a lot easier, and it saves you time in the end because you don't have to weave in all of your loose ends. So the yarn that we're working with today is Drops Bell, and this is a really nice kind of lightweight summer yarn. It's a cotton linen blend, so it's 53% cotton, 33% viscose, and 14% linen. So we're working on this project here, and we're almost to the end of one of our balls of yarn, and we're going to join this new one. So I'll show you how we do that. First, you want to unwrap your new ball of yarn. Just take the little tag off. And side note, I like to save these tags. Firstly, because it helps me keep track of how many balls of yarn I've used for my project. And secondly, it has all sorts of fun information about what the yarn is made of and how you can take care of it. And it also, just helps you keep track of what you're using for your project. So go ahead and find the end of the new yarn that you're going to join. And you're going to need to get a yarn needle for this project. So go ahead and find your yarn needle, and usually they come in different types. I'm going to go ahead and say that I prefer these metal ones that have the sharp pointy ends, especially for this Russian join, because you're going to be weaving the yarn in on itself, and it helps to have a nice pointy end. These plastic ones work just fine, maybe for weaving in loose ends or for a thicker type of yarn, but for this kind of DK weight, sport weight yarn, I find it easier to use these pointy metal yarn needles. So you want to kind of get to the end of your yarn here. You don't need to go all the way to the end, maybe about 6 inches from the end. And you're going to thread the yarn through your yarn needle. Okay. So you want to make a little loop, which is eventually going to be the loop that you're going to join your new ball of yarn with. You like to kind of hold it shut, and then basically you just want to weave your needle through the different strands of your original yarn. You can kind of see here that the yarn will separate into the strands that it's comprised of. You just want to follow that along. I like to go through quite a few times, maybe 7 or 8 times, just so that I know that my yarn tail is going to be nicely secured and it's not going to unravel as I continue to work my project. Okay, so that's good. So go ahead and slide that all the way to the end of your needle and then start to gently pull it through. You don't want to lose the little loop that you have saved for yourself at the end, but you do need to pull the yarn through. So another thing that helps is finding the short end of the yarn, pulling that through. Don't worry, it'll all get straightened out in the end. Take the yarn needle off, pull it tight, keeping that little loop that you made, and you can also shorten that loop because it doesn't need to be super big by pulling the short end of the yarn. And there you go. You've created a little loop the yarn is weaved through itself and you're ready to join the new yarn. So we're basically going to do the same thing with the new yarn. But first, you want to send it through the loop that you just made. So you're going to take that new yarn and send it right through that loop you just made on the pre-existing yarn. I like to thread that through quite a bit. And then put the new yarn on your yarn needle. If you have a little needle hook, it makes it easier. But I lost mine, so I have to go old school. Alright, so the new yarn is on your yarn needle. It has been threaded through the loop that you made on the pre-existing yarn. And now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to weave the new yarn in on itself, making sure that you pass through several layers of the yarn. Okay, and then same thing, you just want to pass that all the way. Good. And I like to pull the short end of the yarn to get it all the way through. Go ahead and pull it tight, straightening out those strands, and then just check that your holes, your two little loops there, aren't too big. I'm actually going to shorten the one that I made on the new yarn by pulling the yarn tail a little bit. Good. Okay. So now those two yarns are joined. That's a really tight join, right? It's weaved through itself. It does make the yarn just a little bit bulkier in the weaved through areas, but not by much. And for this type of yarn, which is like a linen blend, a cotton blend, and this type of project, which is maybe a little bit more, let's say, organic or rustic, it's not like a super sharp, clean edge that I'm looking for in general. I like the fact that it's a little bit, it's got a little bit of a bubble to it. It'll add texture and interest to the completed project. So you'll notice that I'm not cutting these ends. I'll cut them later after I've gone ahead and incorporated this yarn into my project. I'm going to leave them loose until I've used up that section of the yarn, and then after it's incorporated, I'll go back and cut it. So now I'm going to go ahead and continue knitting until I get to that point, and then I'll show you. Okay, so that was how to do the Russian join technique, and I just wanted to show you what that will look like once it's incorporated into your knitting. This section right here is the section that used that Russian joined yarn. You can see on the back that the tails are still there. I usually don't cut them until I'm finished with my project, maybe even after blocking. I'll just let them hang out there, and you can see that it's pretty much looks the same as the rest of the original ball of yarn. You can't really tell that the two yarns have been joined, but you can see here this is a prior join. There's a little bump. Personally, I like that. I think it adds a little bit of interest to the garment, especially with this type of cotton linen blend. I think that it actually looks quite nice. So that is the Russian join technique. I hope you try it. It's a really nice way to avoid having to weave in a bunch of ends when you're finished with your work. If you have any questions, or if you'd like to see any other techniques or knitting related issues, please leave a comment.